Okay, so one of the things I want to talk about is like the legitimacy of coffee. So we've talked about different regions on like some ideas on using your region to pick your hot brew, your cold brew coffee, different things like that. One comparison I want to make is to wine. And yes, coffee is as legitimate as wine. You don't think so because you're like, oh, wine is so fancy. Have you drank wine out of a box? Not so fancy. Same thing, right? Folgers, fancy wine, fancy coffee, it's all the same difference, right? There's commodity wine, there's commodity coffee, okay? But what I want to compare to this is terroir. That means basically how the region, the soil, all of the things that come from nature affect the flavor, right? So like California has a certain feel about it. Australia has a certain feel about it. These different wines, we know that they have these different characteristics. For example, even though I get a hard time about it, I love South American wines. I love Chile and Argentinian wines, specifically Malbecs, right? So those are my favorite wines, and it's because of the regions, the volcanoes, the mountains, all of these different things, right? So like in Chile, the Andes, there's no bugs there, so they don't have to use pesticides. It affects the wine. Same thing with coffee, okay? The terroir affects the coffee just like it does in wine, okay? So here's an example, right? Costa Rica struggled for a long time. One of the reasons is because the way the water works, okay? The water kind of rushes off, and so what was happening is that a lot of the gunk the good water was washing off and washing the garbage into like the coffee fields. And so it was absorbing all this yucky water, and the coffee tasted terrible. And they realized that, and then they readjusted so that they controlled how the water flowed off the mountains, and now Costa Rica is making delicious water. So how the plant exists in nature drastically affects the flavor, okay? So terroir is a big deal, okay? So that's meaning what kind of soil, what the climate is, the elevation in the mountain. All of these things play a big role in your coffee. Thousands and thousands of compounds in here, just as complex as this. Just a little bit, actually, and it's about the same price. So coffee is super legitimate. It's beautiful. There's a lot of people doing a lot of good work on terroir to get you these pineapple or strawberry flavors into coffee that you're not used to seeing. It's a big deal. Look for it. It's great.